pull up your stream so that I can show that, but that's, you know, a nice to have, not a must have immediately.
Yeah. Snowmeath has resubscribed for 22 months. Thank you very much. I see you, kitty. Yep, not dead kitty.
Yay.
Yep, not dead kitty.
Okay, let me mute this Twitch site so that way we're not getting...
Obnoxiously needy kitty. Is Strungs. Hey, Axie. Hey, Misa. And Astashay.
Okay.
And Warn. And Klumily. And NX Super. Hello. I'm just going to stop doing that now.
No, you're fine. I'm... Oops, okay.
Okay, then. Hi, Logan. Hi, Astari. And now, and Nikki, and Clayblade, and I'm done.
Yay.
Oh, I'm Paleo. And Paleo says I'm all good. I'm all good. I'm very tired. I didn't get to sleep until 4, and then I was woken up at about 8 by chainsaws, and then I tried to go back to sleep by 9, and then my landlord called me. Well, no, it was good. I said my oven's broken. He goes, "Do you want to go and get a new one, my treat?" And I was just like, "Yeah, all right then."
Oh, that's cool. So, is it what kind did you get?
Oh, I haven't got it yet. I haven't even ordered it yet. But he's just like,
I thought you were like, I couldn't go back to bed because my landlord was like, "Let's go shopping, woo!" And you were like off to the home improvement store.
Because he talks a lot, and after you talked a lot, like I can go to sleep if I haven't said a word. I can go back to sleep, but if I've spoken to someone, I'm up.
Oh, so I can. Oh yeah, sorry, y'all. I'm fixing the camera at the moment. When I first wake up, I can be in kind of like a half awake mode where I'm like, "What is it? What do you need?" Okay. But like, it doesn't mean I'm actually awake.
Yeah,
that's just like I'm talking, but I'm
like as soon as I talk to someone, I am functional.
Oh no,
which is awful. I know.
That sounds awful.
Also, choo choo, thank you. Oh. I'll read those out in a second. But yeah, no. So he was just like, just pick something out that you like and that you'll use for your oven, and I'll pay for it, and it's fine. You've been there 18 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, what kind of oven would you not use? Is kind of the counter.
I don't know. It's just a case of I'm allowed to pick something out that works for me. So like if I'd like to have a double oven, or if I'd like to have specific kinds of hobs, you know.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, so he's just sort of like, just try and get a good deal on it, and we'll be cool. I'm like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, what's a good deal on an oven? I don't even know what an oven costs.
I have no idea. I've been here 18 years. I've never bought an oven.
Yeah, speaking.
Apparently, I get to.
Yeah. Well, if I did need to buy an oven, I would not be entirely on my own. Thank you to the Grumpy Bunny rolling in and tipping an even 70 via oh gosh, YouTube super chat. We're waking up. My coffee, I've had 2 sips. We're gonna rotate the camera.
Joe's waking up. I'm not.
Yeah, Cleo is awake whether she likes it or not. I'm waking up. We're gonna rotate the camera.
This is like,
whoops, that's the wrong one.
As soon as somebody speaks to me, this is how I am, and I'm just grumpy if I don't get enough sleep. So you know, I'm grumpy, but I'm functional. So thank you, Captain Zemo, who was resubscribed for 21 months, and thank you, Chid, 100 biddies. Canna Russia has resubscribed for 18 months, as tiredness sucks. Thank you for streaming nevertheless. And has also chip biddies. Thank you very much. What can I say? I was awake anyway.
Yay.
And Klumily, thank you for the biddies. Oh, I appreciate you guys.
I'm still rotating that camera for Grumpy Bunny. Thank you, Grumpy Bunny. We're about to hit 70 degrees angular. 1 degree of rotation for every dollar tipped. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Loopy says, I'm in that state a lot. Half awake, barely talking. It was awful with my dad because he expected it. If you spoke, you're awake. Why did you go back to sleep? Why don't you remember what I said?
What?
It's like, I'm not exactly awake. I'm going to see if I can break this up.
I am very much inclined to to go back. Like if I wake up, I can wake myself up. Apparently I just need to say words, but you know,
like I'm fine
I don't like it.
Usually if I have to wake up for something, because I think on some level my brain was stressed out and anxious and ready to wake me up anyway. Like
Yeah, I get it.
when I was doing ROTC, if I had to go on watch at like 4 a.m., like, you know, as soon as the guy was like, Hills, you're up, I am up. Okay, I'm ready to go. Thank you. You go to sleep. You know?
Yeah.
That is fine. But, like, if I'm just like, this is gonna sound weird, but, like, me having something to do is not the same as my kid having something to do.
No, I get it.
Like, having to wake up to get my kid to school isn't the same as me waking up to drive to a convention or whatever, right? It's not like,
right.
Oh yeah, I got to get on the road for Ohio. I'm ready, you know, my brain's ready to go. But like, oh man, it's like, I got to get a sandwich in a lunchbox. I got to put turkey and cheese on bread. Oh boy, yeah, this is what a treat for me. You get to go to school and see all your friends, and I'll just be here. I don't know. I guess I'll color a little bit. Whatever.
I'll just
fun.
exist.
Yeah. It's like, and that's one of the reasons I like having this stream in the morning, right after my kid goes to school, is because I'm like, okay, I've got something for me that I need to wake up for.
Yeah, I understand that.
Power Spirit says doing something for someone else is easier than doing it for yourself. I'll say that's true in terms of like cooking and making coffee and stuff. Like when Badger's visiting, you know, on a weekend, I'll just like, as soon as I'm like partly awake, I'm like, oh, I'll get up and I'll start the coffee, because then we can both have coffee, you know.
Yeah.
But on a week, like when she's not here, when it's just me, or especially like when my daughter's gone too, because she goes to her mom's for the summer. Like, I'll wake up and I'll just be like, should I make breakfast? Should I make coffee? Maybe I need more rest. Because part of the problem is I'm always overtired. So the idea that, like, maybe I'd benefit from trying to go back to sleep isn't necessarily false. But, yeah.
But you resist it anyway.
Adam says, Joe describes himself as a side character in his daughter's story. Well, on a school day where I have nothing to do, that's kind of how I feel. But that's what I'm saying is, like, I need to have my own stuff to do in order to stay motivated. I'm not the sort of person, like, at least in terms of waking up in the morning.
Like, Joe doesn't like being a side character.
No.
Is what we're learning here.
Yes.
And that's okay.
That's why I push myself to the front of every Hermit collaboration. I'm sure you saw the NHO stuff I was in. Quarky, tipping 10. Thank you so much, Quarky. That's going to rotate us another 10 degrees angular.
Is the camera at a slightly different angle? Probably it's always at a slightly different angle. I'm going to be honest.
You don't have like a level with a little bubble?
No. You just signed up for an 8 a.m. organic chemistry class and you're just so tired. You see, that's silly. I can admit that that's silly. Yeah. You should be able to admit that that's silly.
The way my university did it was the easy versions of classes were at 8 a.m. And the pre-med versions of the classes were at like 11 a.m. or 1 p.m., like after lunch, right?
No, that's legit. When everybody's awake.
Yeah, and so that's why I took pre-medical physics instead of physics for poets. Because I was like, I'm going to fail the 8 a.m. one.
Doesn't matter that it's easier.
It doesn't matter that it's easier if I'm struggling to get to class. Like, I'd rather take a harder class that I show up at every day and am awake to engage with the professor on.
I mean, it's legit. I mean, yeah. I have, for me, like, my entire first year of uni did not count. Like, literally did not count. because I switched degrees after the first year. So I was at uni for an extra year because I was just like, I am really not a psychology person. I thought that I was, but turns out no. What I am actually into is rocks.
Yeah, I want something with no personality. I thought I wanted to hear people's histories. I like history. I like understanding how things happened, but like on a longer time scale where I don't have to talk to you.
Yeah, it's like to be fair, my degree was psychology and criminology. I liked the criminology bit.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you still have to talk to people.
Yeah.
For the psychology bit, and it's just like it just doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I passed that year, and then I said I want to do geology, and they looked at me and just went, "You're going to have to start in first year again." I'm like, ugh.
That's one of the reasons.
Okay.
Yeah. So like a lot of American universities have kind of broad degree requirements to graduate, where it's like, okay, you have to take at least 2 semesters of math. You have to take 2 semesters of science, 2 semesters of writing, whatever, that sort of stuff, right? And so the idea is if you want to go into something that requires any of that, you were going to take more than 2 semesters of math to be a mathematician anyway. So any 2 semesters of any math class will count toward that graduation, whatever. You're set for that. But a lot of people, their first year, they'll just try to knock out all of those broad requirements. So that way, if they decide, they'll take like 1 or 2 classes in their major as well. But if they decide like, oh boy, this major might not be for me, and they switch years, then the like few classes they took in their major, even if they didn't count for anything else, would count as like a general elective toward just hours toward graduating, and then you're not forced to take a 4th year necessarily.
Well, for me, it was a case of I ended up being quite annoyed because geology is not a thing that's taught really at A level. I happen to do an A level geology course, so I was already ahead of everyone anyway. So a lot of that first year was getting everyone else up to speed, and I'm just like, what could have happened, what legitimately could have happened is I could have taken an extra 2 or 3 classes of the first year stuff, and that was all it was, and then just been up to speed for everything. But they just went, no, that's not going to work for us. I'm like, it would work for me. But you know what? I have my degree. It's fine.
Yay. And now you use it every day.
I use the skills every day. The skills that made me smart.
Well, I mean, you literally do play a mining video game for a living, so I mean, that helps.
Yeah.
Like, you're...
And able to talk absolute garbage for 5 hours at a time.
Well, that's important for anybody in any of the, like, oil intersecting industries.
Well, considering my degree was applied, there was a lot of how we can use geology to get you a job. And then it was just like, you can do mining. And I was like, that doesn't sound like me. You can do environmental stuff. And I was like, that sounds more like me. Which is what I was going to go in. I was going to go into the environmental geotechnology. I did not do that.
Well, from what I understand, like a lot of those sorts of jobs, because they're the jobs where you're not literally killing the planet are the ones that most people want to do. And then the ones where you're killing the planet are the ones they settled for because their parents didn't have the connections to get them the fun ones.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. I can't believe I've added an extra box again. That's my Tipex mouse. How big are each of those squares? Can never get them. I used 6x6 in this bullet journal. I used 5x5 in my previous one. So I guess it depends on what bullet journal you've got.
Yeah, I was just telling Cleo before we got started, like, one of the reasons that I'm just coloring today is because I feel like I've had a really creative last couple weeks with video editing. I've been looking at how people make all sorts of animations and video effects, like special effects for the cards in the Vintage Beef TCG game. And I've actually started opening up. There's a program called Motion, which is like the Apple equivalent of After Effects, where you can design your own special effects from scratch. And I used that like way back when I started doing YouTube, because I was like, I'm gonna do all my own custom transitions and stuff for my videos. Well, and I had some pretty cool like I don't know exactly what period of my editing I was doing this, but like I had a thing where like I had made a like block breaking transition.
Mm-hmm.
So if I said time skip while I was like hitting a block, the block would spray particles that were bits of the next scene, and then when the block broke, it would go completely to the next scene. And this is a decade ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when my kid was born, I was just like, I don't have time to focus on this right now. Like I just need to, getting anything published at all is more important than it being perfect, right? I'm not getting any sleep, that sort of thing.
I understand. I get it.
And so like now I feel like I'm actually starting to get back into that original kind of vibe of like,
That's good.
yeah. But having spent a lot of time on that this week. Oh, the other thing I spent a lot of time on, Cleo, was, did you actually get to look at those tooltips?
I haven't had a chance yet.
That's okay. I am legitimately really proud of that. Like okay, so figuring out how to remove the 41st through, no, it's the 57th through 97th rows of pixels from every image automatically.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't use Photoshop for that, because like I had automated a lot of the other stuff in Photoshop, but for that I actually had to use command line software called Image Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And figure out how to get that to cut out rows of pixels in the middle of images and do so. Like, it's one of those things like that. It turns out that was in some ways the easy part. The hard part was like getting it to do it without it like saving it as a different type of PNG file that doesn't have transparency or something stupid, right?
Right.
So like I was just but the thing is that we didn't want to have the word locked directly under the title of every card in the tooltips, that if people are going to use them for overlays, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's right there in all of them. So
well done.
Yay. Yeah, I haven't gotten any real feedback from anybody on it yet, but I'm assuming that's just because Beef isn't running any games right now, so nobody's actually needs them for editing at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's legit, I think.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna stress about it, but like I know that I'm gonna use them.
I'm gonna use them, so
yeah,
that's 2 people.
I've been experimenting.
Thank you, Anonymous, for gifting a sub. It's appreciated. Sorry, what was that, Joe?
Yay, Anonymous. I was just saying, I've been going back and redoing parts of the last video I put out with some of the new effects I'm working on, including like something where it's like when I draw a card, when I say I draw a card, it'll say like +1 card, and it'll show the face of the card and the tooltip. And then the card will like shrink and go down into the lower right where my hand is.
That's pretty cool.
And so the when we're in third person camera mode for any of the shots, in the lower right there will always be like a little row of cards that's, hey, this is my hand right now.
Well, I was going to do something similar with the cards in my hand, so
yeah,
I wasn't going to do the animation because I can't.
it's I'm gonna say getting that animated properly might be too much of a headache depending on how quickly we're making these, unless I actually like straight up just build my own plugin for Final Cut Pro to keep track of board state and hand state, and which is one of those things though, like in terms of like computer programming,
Mm-hmm.
keeping track of which cards are in your hand is relatively easy. Having the hand, like, move the cards together if you take a card out and play it is, like, the animation part is more what I'm worried about than
I understand.
the keeping
That's why
track part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, because nobody else uses Final Cut Pro that I know of on Hermitcraft. Maybe Mumbo,
No.
but I'm pretty sure he's on Premiere.
I think everybody's on Premiere these days.
Well, for a while, I think Hypno was still on Sony Vegas and maybe XB.
Oh, I was on Sony Vegas until last year.
But yeah, so it's like I'm building all of this in a way that, like, I don't have to worry about any, like, it's even if somebody was like, "Hey, could I use that in my videos?"
Yeah.
It's like, because I would feel kind of weird about that. So, like, with the tooltip thing, that's just me helping, like, Beef share his game better. But, like, if I'm spending, like, 20 hours building a custom plugin, like, that feels like a job. That, especially because my job used to be doing stuff like that, right? And then at that point, I'm like, I feel weird giving it away because I built it to, like, make my videos better. But I also want everybody's videos to be better. But I also feel weird asking for money, right? Like,
yeah. I would probably just say, I'm willing to give it to you for this price, but I need to keep it, like, somewhat sensible. I don't know. It's weird. I definitely think you deserve the money, is what I'm saying.
Well, but that's why I feel better about it just not being something that anyone could want. It's like, oh, this is Final Cut Pro? Screw that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I completely sidestepped the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true.
The other alternative that would be if I just said, oh, yeah, I put that on my web store as a digital download for $100. You're welcome to pick it up if you want. But so could anybody who wanted to make a card game for their for their videos or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
Like, but then I'm getting into, like, now I'm running a software company again, and I don't want to do that. Because then it's like, oh, Final Cut updated, you got to update your plugin for all, you know, the 12 people who bought it.
At that point, it's just a case of, it's just a one-shot thing.
Yeah.
It's not a license. It's just, this is for this version.
Yeah, you're right. But I would still...
I usually am. That's the problem I have with my life.
Yeah.
It's a curse. Thank you, Paradoxically, who is gifted 3 subs to the community. I appreciate that. And Sismir Skituli, I think, has resubscribed for 7 months. I can't say the name. It's been a while since I've been getting back into Hermitcraft. Thought I'd sub again for all the cute emotes. Oh, thank you. I do like my emotes. My emotes are good.
You know, as I'm thinking about this, like, I'm actually thinking it would be nice if more hermits just used Final Cut Pro so that I'd have somebody to go to when, like, oh, this weird thing is happening. Anybody else see this? Because right now I'm completely on my own for stuff like that. So maybe it would be worth it to give it away for free. Just
have you I understand. I understand why you would go for Final Cut Pro.
Well, I used Premiere for 2 years, and it, like, so I had used Final Cut Pro for like 5 years. And then I was like, okay, my Mac broke, so I'm going to switch over to PC only. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to learn Premiere. And I had used a bunch of other Adobe software, and I had been video editing for 5 years. So how hard could it be, right? The problem was, after 2 years, everything I was doing just took about 1/3 to 50% longer. Like, in editing, not like output time, but like just I couldn't work as fast. So the Final Cut Pro, the way the software is just structured lends itself to the sort of projects I was doing, and I could just do everything faster and with less frustration. And so, like, you know, I feel like after 24 months of trying to use Premiere, And during that 24, that was like the most miserable time I had on YouTube in terms of motivation and stuff, where I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna buy another Mac once I can afford it and go back to Final Cut Pro. And as soon as I did, I'm like, this just feels more natural. The software got even better in the 2 years since. Like, especially for multi-camera editing, like where you're cutting between.
I started in Adobe Premiere, like the cheap version.
Yeah.
That's officially what it's called. Adobe Premiere, the cheap version.
Yeah.
So like I went to Sony Vegas for a while, and then coming back to Premiere, it was just like it sort of all clicked with me again.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's I guess it's like whatever version you start on is the one you're gonna always feel is like home.
And I mean, if there was a killer feature that Premiere had that Final Cut Pro didn't, you know, like for me for a long time, one of the reasons to do Final Cut Pro was the multi-camera video editing for doing D&D games and Pitfalls and Penguins games, where I could just have 5 little camcorders around the room, ingest all the footage into the software, and then flip between them on the fly while editing.
Right.
And Premiere's multi-camera stuff just wasn't anywhere near as efficient. And when you're dealing with, okay, we generated 3 hours of D&D gaming a week, every week, which means like 5 cameras, that's 15 hours of footage. If anything that slows you down on that, all of a sudden you can't get an episode out every week because you're spending too much time, you know? So that wasn't like necessarily crucial for my Minecraft stuff back then, but especially now, like with Replay Mod, that's how I synchronize all my Replay Mod files, is using the multi-camera editing. So I'll do an export of a scene from like 3 or 4 different angles, and then I'll flip between them, you know, depending on what I'm trying to express at the time or where the best view is.
Right. That makes sense. Oka the Reptile has resubscribed for 22 months. Hey Cleo, hey chat. How are we today? We're very tired.
Woo! Tired! Yeah!
Exhaustion! Is that the Joe Hills?
That's
No.
Hills.
No. We're nice to Joe on this channel.
Kindleless MC writes, "Good morning, Joe. How was your long weekend?" I think you answered your own question there, Kindleless MC. Long.
Long.
It was definitely a catch-up weekend for me, because I had structured my workflow that way, and then my daughter's mother didn't pick her up, even though she fought to have all these 3-day weekends in court and during the mediation process.
Yep.
And so I keep structuring my work so that I'll put a bunch of tasks on the weekends where my daughter is supposed to be gone, and then when my daughter doesn't get picked up, it really sucks because I'm like, well, I goofed off with you last week because I knew you were going to be gone this weekend, but I can't goof off and pal around this weekend because the work I should have been doing last week I scheduled for today. And now your mom isn't here. And now, but like, so, like, and she understands the reality of that because I'm like, you know, here's what we did last week. I should have been working during a lot of that time. And she's like, yeah, you probably should have. Okay, that's fair. I get it. You know, so it's not like she's holding it against me or anything, but like, it sucks because it's like, I want to... I'm trying to optimize around the custody schedule, but that schedule's being ignored.
That only works if it's a schedule.
Yeah, so like this isn't a secret. I'm not worried about my ex somehow hearing this, but no, I've already it's because she skipped so many days. Like I've talked to my attorney about like drafting a proposal where basically we take the 3-day weekends that she really wanted but isn't doing
Yeah.
and trade them for right now. I only have my daughter for fall break every other year, and we had a really good
Mm-hmm.
time on our 10-day road trip last fall break, but like it breaks my heart to see her like having to deal with this every 3-day weekend from school basically. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna offer to me giving up that every other year fall break in exchange for her not having those 3-day weekends that she's not doing anyway. Because
Yeah.
like if I know 100% I've got my kid for MLK weekend, I will
You're gonna do a
structure
thing.
I'll structure my whole workflow for the weeks leading up to it so that I can relax with her that weekend. And so yeah, that means maybe we'll go out a little bit less during the week leading up to it and the week before that. But it's like right now it's just not working, and so I have no idea what she's going to how she's going to respond to that, but like I it's just not fair to my daughter to like not try anything. And so
Yeah.
here we are. And I was and my ex has been doing this for so long. I was going to send this proposal over last January because she did the same thing for MLK weekend then,
Yeah.
but the Hermitcraft hiatus meant that I didn't have the money to pay my attorney. And so I was just like, well, you know what? Maybe we get another year out from the worst part of the pandemic and she'll start, because she kind of would be like, well, with the pandemic shrug, and I'm like,
With the pandemic, still your kid.
yeah, you're still legally, the court still expects you to pick her up from school and you didn't pick her up from school, so I have to. Like, uh on these weekends. So it's like, so this time I'm just kind of like, okay, I like, yeah, as
There's only so much you can do.
like
So
at this
we
point,
understand.
like the season's gonna be going for a while, no hiatus. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going full speed ahead. Mini Cheese
Yep.
Mouse says, hopefully once you have another adult in the house, it'll be easier to deal with these situations. I am certain that Badger will help any way she can with stuff like that, but that's also not her responsibility. That any assistance she grants there is appreciated, but like this legal situation with this custody situation, that's my responsibility, and I need to take steps to manage it, not just depend on the generosity of others. Um, so yeah. I'm optimistic that she will be helpful with that stuff, but like, it's also possible that, maybe that weekend she's sick anyway, even if she's
Yep.
here. You know what I mean? Like, I have to have a plan regardless.
Yes.
Hey, we got a tip rolling in for 8 from Maria, who says, it's Rotate Hills on the craft streams, right? So Rotate Hills. That's right, Maria. We're going to rotate me another 8 degrees. Do. Putting us 2 away from an even 90.
I have to ask because I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the thing. MLK Day. I understand the holiday. I understand what it's a holiday for. I don't understand what you would do on that holiday. I mean, like, I know, like, your 4th of July's fireworks. What is MLK Day? What is the traditions?
So a lot of that stuff is still in formation. Like, MLK Day is a relatively young holiday by American standards, because the 4th of July has been the 4th of July since we were a country, basically. Thanksgiving's been around for a long time as a local.
Before you were a country.
Yeah, that was a regional tradition in New England before we were a country, and during the Civil War, Lincoln decided to make it a national holiday, which a lot of people hated because they're like, look at that. It's just dumb Massachusetts nonsense. They're trying to force down everybody's throat, just like getting rid of slavery, you know? And so, like, as a national holiday, Thanksgiving is, about 120, 130 years old only. So MLK Day, obviously much younger, because MLK was very active in the 1960s, and MLK Day itself didn't become recognized even though it was a federal holiday, a lot of places didn't start recognizing it until like the last 4 or 5 years or last decade.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Good.
the university I went to,
Progress. We like progress.
yeah, the university I went to, MLK Day wasn't a holiday while I was there, and I graduated in 2008. I think it was only really in the last 10 years that they finally said, hey, we're not going to have classes on MLK Day.
Yay.
Yay.
Progress.
Yeah.
We like progress.
So, there's been, there's actually kind of a bit of a culture, I don't want to say culture war element to this, but, so to some people, they want it to be a day of like community and reflection where so for example in Nashville there'd be like a 2 or 3 mile walk across town to commemorate the marches, and then it would stop at one of the larger churches in town, and there would be an hour or two of kind of like lectures and speeches about the civil rights movement, primarily from people who were there or whose parents were there, that sort of thing. So it's in some ways more of a commemorative holiday, right?
Yeah.
There's other folks who want it to be more of a volunteerism holiday, though, where it's like, you know, get out in your community and pick up trash. And I generally like that sentiment, but the idea of cleaning up your community and fighting your government are not the same exactly, right?
Right.
And so there's so some folks feel like that's trying to co-opt a radical holiday and remove its radical roots. And like I said, I'm a big fan in general of community service and, you know, you know, at my kids' school, you know, if they're like, hey, we're having a day where we want the kids and parents to come out and, you know, help with some landscaping changes. Because, like, the city doesn't have a budget for this, but, like, one of the parents bought a truckload of mulch. Does everybody want to help us mulch the school and make it look nice? You know? That sort of thing. Do they have that sort of thing in London or you live in England?
I mean, not particularly, not in that sort of way.
Yeah.
I mean, we have like parent-teacher stuff, but it's like purely it's purely school-led, effectively.
Gotcha.
So, you know. Although the PTA at my last school was very odd. They were very proprietary about the weirdest things. Like, they got an extra fridge for the school. And we weren't allowed to use it for, like, classes and stuff.
What was it for?
Because it was purely for the PTA to use for events. And it was like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that you're getting money for the school, but shouldn't you actually be getting money for the school and not for the PTA?
Yeah, I think...
And they were going, but it's in the school. Yeah, it's using our electricity.
Yeah, it is. Let's see, I got a tip here rolling in from Kindleless for 71, who says, Kindleless here, tipping because fees are attached to everything. I don't know what that's in reference to, but we were at 88, and we're adding another 71 here, so that'll take us up to 159 degrees angular. Let's get rotating. Thank you very much, Kindleless.
Thank you, Snowmeath, for the...
Oh, go on.
Thank you, Snowmeath, for the biddies. Thank you, Psychic Legume, who has resubscribed for 11 months, and Mathematical Jackal, who has resubscribed for 10 months. I very much appreciated. You were going to say something.
So, Mini Cheese Mouse says most schools just have a concrete area for play here. Yeah. No, that's fair. Like, I guess, and like, I mean, where I grew up, it was a city in the Northeast for like when I was very young, and like we didn't have a playground. We had the parking lot of the school, and so all of the games we played.
Oh, yikes!
Yeah, well, I mean, they would put cones up, like, so that like people didn't drive through it. But like, yeah, so like we would play Foursquare with you know, bounce like the big rubber balls and stuff, and
Yeah,
run around and play tag and stuff. But like, yeah, there wasn't grass there, and so yeah, I mean, I've seen it. It's a thing, but yeah, I'm glad that my kid, you know, can like Nashville is a little bit better about like even though Nashville's a bigger city because it started growing later than a lot of cities in the north here.
yeah.
It they had more green space kind of allocated for the schools.
Yes. I like the JT has just put in. I'm going to talk about green space in a minute. He goes, I was on one. How did you put it? Let me go. I've been on the part of one very reasonable PTA and one very well-oiled machine PTA, and I like that those are different because yes, that has been my experience. You can have good but not kind, or kind but not good. Is how I've experienced PTAs as a teacher. So, but yeah, no, green space here. Each school is designated a green area, usually. Mostly they own it. Sometimes they share it between some schools. But I mean, every school that I've worked at has had a field, which, you know, they just release the children onto in the summertime. My last school had a little bit of forest.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, that one was nice in the summer where you could just take the kids down into the forested area and they would play with sticks, you know?
Yeah, so my high school was next to a greenway, which is like a concrete, or not concrete, an asphalt path for biking or wheelchair accessible path or whatever through the forest. Like, and it wasn't like this school was in the middle of the woods. It was that the school was along a creek, and there was a long belt of like forested area along the creek because nobody could build anything there. It would flood, you know. And it's like, oh no, our asphalt path got flooded. That's fine, you know, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
that was really good for like biology class and stuff. We could just go walk out and, you know, have this like 1.5 mile long path along the creek to like do bug catching and stuff like that. But that was high school in Tennessee, which is a lot different.
Yeah. Thank you, Draincaster, for resubscribing for 5 months. Our schools keep getting stuck in reconstruction. Currently, both of my schools my kids go to have the outside taken out by construction. Like, I don't think... I mean, I know that my last school is currently selling off some of their land to pay for, like, teachers and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, it's not uncommon if you have a large one-time capital expense to sell some land in order to take care of it. But no, this is just recurring teacher salaries we can't pay. Oh gosh.
Well, to be fair, like I have had some schools that I have been part of that were funded terribly. I'm just going to say it. They were funded terribly. The last school I went at, and they were running at a deficit for decades. Until they couldn't anymore, and then they had to fire a bunch of people. My last school were just sort of like, okay, so in 3 years at our current expenses and what we're getting in the government and what our expected pupil levels are going to be, in 3 years we will run into a deficit. So we are going to be taking steps now to not do that, which means we had extra teachers, but that teacher has now left. We're going to have to squeeze the classrooms together a bit. So instead of 27 children, you will both have 31 in your classes. You know, and it's just sort of like, I get it. Schools need to be better funded. Yeah, they just do. They just do. Just having class like honestly, paying teachers so they don't want to leave constantly, and you're constantly getting the bottom least trained teachers into schools would be nice.
Yeah. Well,
because
I
all
guess
your experienced people are leaving.
my concern is, though, if you're selling land in order to meet like normal operating expenses, how do you continue operating after that money's gone?
That was a joke, Joe. I was joking. What they're actually doing is they are selling land so they can do some improvements to the school.
Oh, okay.
For the long term. So things like getting appropriate sports equipment and building a new wing to house the younger classes. What else were they doing? I can't remember. It was a whole thing, but basically they've been funneling everything into the children, which is good. Better ventilation. Don't be silly. You get a fan and you will like it.
There you go. That's the spirit, Cleo. That's one of the things that drove me crazy about the COVID handling in Tennessee is...
And in the UK.
Well, no, in Tennessee in particular, and here's why. Okay, so what was your prime minister's job before he went into politics?
Buffoon.
Okay, so our governor literally owns and operates the largest heating, ventilation, and air conditioning company in Tennessee.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I can see where this is going.
So when COVID hits and they're like, okay, we want to reopen the schools as soon as possible. That's a big priority because a lot of parents depend on it for daycare. I'm just like, you know what? Of all the worst case scenarios here, this guy, a bunch of people were like, you know, I bet if this guy gets elected, he's going to funnel a bunch of money into retrofitting every government building in the state's HVAC, which, you know, arguably he could make sure those contracts go to as many companies as possible, but because he has such a big share of the market in terms of skill and equipment and stuff, some of those contracts are going to have to go to his own company. There's no way to avoid it, right?
Yes.
So I'm just like, every elementary school in the state's going to get a new HVAC, which, in fairness, they probably need. And this guy's going to get stupid rich. But you know what? Fine.
Okay, I can get behind some of this, yeah.
Like, at a certain point...
Instead,
he just reopened the schools without improving ventilation anywhere. And I'm just like... like, couldn't you just be a little bit more self-interested? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest frustration. Well, I say that I've got a lot of frustrations with our government here. But
I know.
But that's...
But they're not. That doesn't mean they're not legit, Joe.
Yeah, okay. I guess what I'm saying is usually they disappoint me in predictable ways, but the one time that they choose not to enrich themselves is at the expense of our children. And I'm like, come on.
You had one job, and it would have made you obscenely wealthy.
This would have made you so much money. And like, but the thing is too, like, if you put in a good new HVAC system in all of these schools, that's gonna last, you know, that's an improvement that's gonna be beneficial for decades.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real infrastructure investment. And Emily W. says, a politician that doesn't take an opportunity to line their own pockets, unheard of. I know! That's why I'm so incredulous. I'm like, come on! The one time!
You had one job!
You were supposed to be self-interested and get these contracts.
And you are, but in weird ways.
Yeah, and it's... But like, the thing is, though, that upgrading all the ventilation systems didn't fit the party line on COVID, which was, it's not that big a deal. And so, but like, you know, it's one of those things like, oh, here in Tennessee, we're not having teacher shortages because unlike some school districts, we didn't kill off all our old teachers when we put in these new ventilation systems. That would have been something you could go national on. You want to run for president later, talk about your leadership on this. And you know how you can pay for all your campaign ads? It's with those HVACs.
Yeah. I don't know if I thank Draincaster. It says happy stream. Thank you very much for resubbing. Yeah, no, like school savings is just weird. You know, like the amount that people like were kids need to be out of kids either need to be in or out of school depending on who you chose sides with. We know who I chose sides with because, you know, because I was there at the time. But like they lost so many people. They lost hundreds of people because they died.
Yeah. Well, in America, the number one fatality profession because of COVID is short order cook. And so people keep saying, like, I don't know why service is terrible at all these restaurants. And it's like, okay, well, a bunch of old people who loved going in and working every day, or a bunch of old people who had no choice but to work until they died. And a bunch of them who didn't die saw their friends die.
And they just went, not for me.
Thanks. And they said, you know what? I know 2 other cooks around town who died of COVID. I'm getting up there. I'm 55 now. Maybe I'm gonna try and do something else. You know what? My grandkids need a babysitter. I'm gonna talk to my daughter about maybe helping out more there.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't blame them. You know, like that's traumatic, and like, but yeah, like restaurants are gonna cost more for a while, if not forever.
I was terrified during, like, I was 100% just absolutely terrified during the whole of COVID, cause like the first time they took me out of school immediately because of my asthma. Like my head teacher, like knew just how bad my asthma was because, you know, I'd had a lot of time off because in school with asthma is terrible. But he took me out straight away. And then it was a case of, I am so sorry. I have to ask you to come in and deal with the at-risk children. I'm like, the at-risk children, which generally means the ones that are from poor families whose parents have to go out to work a lot in unprotected jobs who are going to end up with COVID. So they had to bring me in to take care of all the vulnerable children. So I was even more terrified. Fortunately, I was able to get a little distance because my class size was so small. I had like 7 kids in there. But like it was scary. It was scary. I mean, one of my kids' dads died during that. You know, and like having to deal with that child who is already a vulnerable child and, you know, make sure that they're okay whilst not being able to even hug them. And it was just like, it was, like knowing his dad died, it was just like, oh, okay. I was just waiting to see when my turn would come up. It didn't at that time, fortunately. I ended up getting vaxxed before I had to worry about that. Yep. Teachers go through a lot. And they go through it when the kids go through it, is all I'm saying. So if you have good teachers, let them know, like, or if your kids have good teachers, let you know that you appreciate them.
Yeah.
So they don't leave.
Well, I gotta say, this is shocking to me. Something happened at my kid's school, and and I was completely surprised. I didn't know that this was even possible for a teacher. But so my kid's teacher's mother was having open heart surgery.
Yeah.
And so my kid comes home from school and she's like, yeah, my teacher is gonna be gone for 2 weeks because she has to take care of her mom who's having open heart surgery. And I'm like, oh wow. That's like, yeah, that's one of those things where it's like open heart surgery these days is relatively safe, but the recovery is a lot.
It's not fun. Yeah.
You need help. And I'm like, oh wow, that's a shame. I guess her dad's already passed away or can't help take care of her. And my daughter's like, yeah, her dad can't get off work. and
Don't
and,
you?
and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But like the thing is, I've never heard of a teacher getting 2 weeks off like this. And I'm like really I still need to write the principal and say thank you because like this is the lady's a great teacher. My daughter really enjoys being in her class, but like I've always heard with teachers it's like, well, if you're going to have a problem like that, you need to schedule it during the summer, you know.
Yeah.
And so like this teacher shortage must be pretty serious if they're willing to like give her 2 weeks off on short notice like that.
Yeah.
Which but like I said, I had never heard of anything like that happening. Like usually the schools are just like, no, it's not our job to make sure that your mother is taken care of. You have the whole summer. Do it then.
I mean, I would assume it would be covered under emergency leaves.
I guess, but like, yeah, usually I don't know. I just haven't heard of it around
I
here.
mean, like, okay, I'm not a hero. I appreciate you calling me that. It makes me feel very good. I'm not. It's just a thing you have to deal with when you deal with children. I'm afraid. But over here, when my mum got sick, and when like it was a case of I was leaving. I'd already put my notice in.
Yeah.
And it was a case of my mom is really ill. I've got to go, and I'm going to go and do YouTube anyway. But she's taken a turn. And they've given her 2 months. She ended up only having 2 weeks, which is they said, you know what? School is going to end in a month. You can have the last 3 weeks, and you can just go and just be with your mum. And they said, just give us to the end of the week. And my ex head, the last head that I had, he was the best. I think probably the best person I've ever met. So, just legitimately, he was just a good person. But no, he immediately got me, like, it was just sort of like, just go. You got to be with your mum. Give us a week. And yeah. So the fact that like keeping a teacher in a position where they're not having a good time, they've got a problem at home, is going to end poorly for the school. So you might, at a certain point, you might as well just let them go.
No, that makes sense. But like, yeah, like I said, I just all my time as a student, like I never had a teacher take 2 weeks off in the middle of the year. Like, it's just so like, I just saw that as like really a big sign of like how things have shifted.
For us, like I don't remember teachers taking time off, but like since the beginning when I started teaching, which was what, 18 years ago actually, when I first moved into this place. For us, it was a case of, if it's a medical emergency, it's a medical emergency. Just bring us evidence when you get back that that's where you were, and it will be cool. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Usually when a teacher's taken a long-term leave, it's because of a new baby. Oh yeah, over here they get they get what, 6 months paid, 6 months half, and then another year unpaid. So most teachers come back after a year. Okay, is that everything done? I think so.
NJ said, "Wait, schedule open heart surgery later when it's convenient." I didn't say that this was a reasonable expectation of the employer. I just said that's the general
It's an
attitude.
American expectation.
That's the attitude that I've seen before.
That's the American way.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
No, it's fine. We have our culture isn't great about stuff like this.
Yeah. Welcome to the capitalist dystopia.
Yay. Oh boy, Cleo. So,
oh no. I mentioned capitalist dystopia.
You might have stumbled.
I've got to talk to you.
I don't have formal show notes for this show, but I do have, like, over the course of the week, sometimes stuff comes up and I'm like, oh, I should talk to Cleo about that, right?
Yeah.
So, I've been reading Dracula for the last 26 weeks every Saturday.
Yes.
And, there's only 27 chapters in Dracula. So I've started looking at, like, what's some short stuff that I can read over the next few weeks, and then I'm kind of looking for something longer in a few months. I don't want to jump straight into something long again, right? But I've started looking at some longer stuff, and a lot of people are like, well, you read Dracula. Just read Frankenstein next. And I'm like, I don't want to be... Like, that feels, like, too mundane, right? Just, okay, Dracula and then Frankenstein. Next we'll read Wolfman and then The Mummy. Like,
Yeah.
So I've started looking at what are things that have had a similar cultural impact to Dracula but aren't necessarily as big. And one of the things I was looking at that I have decided not to read is Thomas More's Utopia. Because we talk about utopias and dystopias all the time. But, like, most of us haven't read the original book that proposed the concept of the utopia.
I haven't. No, I don't even know what it's about.
It's about an island called Utopia in the New World, and it describes a society that is... So the first half of the book is a bunch of letters between Europeans talking about the problems that they're facing today in terms of, like, government and societal structure, right? And how they just can't figure out what to do. And the second half is a description from a voyager to the New World of an island that is not currently Christian, but they're optimistic in the long term, that has a relatively idealistic society.
Ooh. I feel this so hard.
And the island is called Utopia. And so, like, I was like, this could be a good candidate because we talk about utopias, but do we keep in mind that the original Utopia had legalized slavery? Do we keep in mind that the original Utopia had, like, there's all sorts of interesting things in the utopic vision of Thomas More that, like, have been, like, kind of, like, quietly shed over time. And I think that maybe when we throw around words like utopia and dystopia, it's dystopic to not have slavery. Is an interesting concept. It is against the vision of utopia to not have slavery. Like, I think that's... But I don't know if I want to read the whole book on stream for a few weeks, but, like, I'm realizing, like, oh boy, there's something here worth delving into. And so this might be a good candidate for, like, my Patreon book club, which is more of a everybody reads it on their own and then we talk about it thing. But, like, I wanted to run this by you real quick, just because for all I know, it's like, Joe, anywhere else in the world, everybody reads Thomas More's Utopia. That's why we talk about utopias so much. Like, I wanted to kind of get a quick cross-cultural check.
No, we don't read Utopia.
Okay.
Arguably we should. But apparently just not.
Yeah. So, okay, so that was one of the books I was looking at. I also started looking at, like, okay, one of the reasons I felt like Dracula worked well was because it was the kind of original Gothic horror book.
Right.
Right? So I was like, maybe looking at other things that kicked off genres as a theme. Instead of going from one Gothic horror to the next Gothic horror, we say, okay, here's the book that kicked off Gothic horror. Now, here's Sherlock Holmes. That kicked off the concept of the mystery novel or the mystery story, you know?
Right.
And
yeah.
then I was like, but that Sherlock Holmes is pretty predictable. You know, people, they don't come to my channel for something that they could easily get somewhere else. So I'm like, what's something, what are some other things? Okay, well, if you start looking at, like, early science fiction, like in the 2nd century, Lucian wrote what he called true history, which was like a fake, he's like, this is the truest travelogue ever written, because I admit up front it's all lies. Everybody else, they have these traveling histories where they go around and they meet a bunch of people, and you know what? Most of it's lies, but they claim it's true. Mine, I'm going to come in and claim this is all false. He basically wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy 1800 years ago, right? And it's just him making up stuff about going to other planets and meeting aliens who have been to Earth and talking about what they think of Earth. And this is, I think that could be an interesting choice.
I agree with you. I'm just, I
Why
just
are you
have,
sighing? I really want to know.
Don't know, but it feels like a very Joe book to read.
Yeah.
So.
No, the problem is it was written.
There we go.
It wasn't written in English. This is kind of the same problem as Thomas More's Utopia. It wasn't written in English. And so if I want to use a public domain translation, it's going to be old. If I want to use a modern translation, it's copywritten. But either way, I'm still not reading the original text.
Yes.
Which is
true.
One of the nice things about Dracula is, like, we're literally reading the original text here. And so I might not be able to go back 1800 years, though, and read stuff in English, plausibly. So then I'm like, okay, well, what if I confine myself to more modern early science fiction? Voltaire actually wrote a science fiction story. Like, I think it was called, like, Mini Megas. It combines, like, large and small or something, and it's about, like, giant aliens or whatever. But I think he wrote it in French, so then we're back to the translation
issue.
Yeah.
Joe should read the book that inspired Dracula.
People are also asking, Voltaire the musician? And see, this is part of why I think I should read Voltaire. Because
I think maybe you should at that point.
Because, like, there's clearly a unmet demand.
There is definitely something. Cleo has very specific noises that mean I would never do this, but Joe should definitely do this because this is such a Joe thing to do.
Mini Cheese Mouse says Winnie the Pooh is out of copyright. Maybe you could read some of that. I don't know what reading Winnie the Pooh would accomplish. In the same way, I don't know, like, people have suggested Alice in Wonderland, and I don't know, like, I feel like with reading Dracula, like, there's so much stuff in pop culture and vampire stuff everywhere. Like, there's a lot of interesting bits to dissect and break down and talk about and with Dracula, but, like, with Winnie the Pooh, I just feel like, boy, that bear, what's staying power? Like, I mean, I don't know enough about other children's literature to talk about why A.A. Milne was influential. Obviously, A.A. Milne was influential, but it feels like it's not in my lane to focus on that. Whereas talking about early science fiction, Well, and that's actually one of the reasons I don't want to do Sherlock Holmes, is I don't know enough about modern mystery writing. I don't read a lot of modern mysteries, right? So,
Right.
so like reading Sherlock Holmes, I could talk about in terms of like modern adaptations, because I've watched BBC
Mhm.
Sherlock and stuff like that, with the guy from Stranger Things. Wait, no, he wasn't in Stranger Things. He was in Fargo. Hey, Lost Cult Music, thank you for the 7, who says, as long as you and your mods are equipped to facilitate the discussion that follows, could be fun. Did you ever do old versions of Robin Hood? Robin Hood might be an interesting one, because you've got the rob from the rich, give to the poor anti-government thing. I actually, that's a...
Original Robin Hood was basically a clothing ad.
Oh, okay.
It was, look at them with their shiny red stockings.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Just so you're aware. What? No, legit, yeah. It was a story, like the really early versions was a story that was based, oh god, it was based on myth that was co-opted by people to sell red stockings effectively.
Yeah, and
It wasn't even green, it was red.
Oh, wow.
They wore red because everyone wore red because it was cheap.
Sir Llewellyn says, may I ask why Joe is upside down on the camera? Every dollar that we are tipped today, or I say I am tipped today, I rotate the camera 1 degree. Kindle says there's a lot of versions of Robin Hood that are in and out of copyright. Yeah, it might be worth reading Robin Hood, actually, just because Robin Hood is very influential in a bunch of ways, iconically in society, but a lot of people don't read the original, and the original is in English. This is one of the things I'm disappointed with Don Quixote.
Old English, specifically.
Boy, okay, I've never had any formal training in Old English. I've had training in Middle English, but that's the extent of it. Did you cover Old English in school, like pronunciation and stuff? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just part of your curriculum.
It came around about the same time as the Canterbury Tales.
Well, that was Middle English though.
Yeah.
So we did.
So it might be in Middle English rather than Old English. So, but still, it's
okay. Well, that I can do, because we spent we spent about a week on Middle English in one of my literature classes, and specifically focusing on pronunciation and taking turns reading Middle English stuff aloud and stuff.
Yeah, you might have problems with it, but I don't know. Like for me, the problem with Middle English is the the hidden meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, whilst some of our words are similar, they have evolved. Got a copy of Beowulf that's the Old English next to the modern translation. That was hard. It's a difficult read. I mean,
yeah,
like just anything is, it's just difficult. I don't envy anyone trying to do it. So I'm going to watch Joe in interest. So
yeah,
there's that.
Well, the other thing too is it seems like if I was going to read something in Middle English, that's a good background while you're working. Like, that would be an 8:30 in the morning on Tuesday stream. So people are getting into work, they're having their coffee, and they're just like, I just want to have something on in the background while I work. That doesn't feel like a Saturday night stream. Like, Dracula is exciting, there's yelling, it's intense, right? Whereas if I'm reading the Canterbury Tales, that feels like that should be background noise, and that's not a Saturday.
The Canterbury Tales is just filthy. You should probably not.
Fair enough.
Put it on mature.
Oh no, I keep my Twitch stream on mature because, well, 2 reasons. One, we read things like Edgar Allan Poe and Dracula, and there's a lot of murder. And 2, because when we did the Empires crossover, they can be a little bit more sweary than us. And I was just like, I can't like, whether or not I'm swearing, I can't promise you that nobody else is, right? And so I'm gonna just keep the stream on mature. And honestly, with any live work, I feel kind of more comfortable having it set up that way. Because there's always the element of, like, you know, something can go wrong, and like, you know, with the YouTube videos which are edited, like, I feel like that's the sort of thing where it's like, okay, I know exactly what's in this because I've watched it 4 times while editing it. But a show like this, I mean, somebody could walk past the window screaming into their phone, like, I don't know. I live in the city. Like, people swear.
I live in the city, people swear. You heard it from Joseph Hills himself.
As far as it goes, says, regarding genre-defining books, what about Asimov? Copyright is the concern there. I can't read anything that's still in copyright on stream. At least not, like, without permission from the author and or whoever owns the rights. And so, like, you know, I've read a short story here and there by, like, a guy I know who writes short stories, because I know he's not gonna sue me. And he also has gone out of his way to, like, retain the rights to his work. And so for some people it would be out of their hands whether or not I got sued, because the publisher can just do that, right? But basically, other than Leonard Richardson's stuff, I'm not gonna risk reading stuff on the stream that's in copyright. Oh, C.S. Lewis is also still in copyright. Also, I don't really have an interest in reading C.S. Lewis. Like, I don't... Like, it's kind of like reading A.A. Milne. I know that they were influential, but I don't really have a lot to talk about with them. Or I don't feel like... I don't know. I don't feel like going back to the originals is a challenge for people. I feel like for some people, picking up the original Dracula is one of those things that they're like, I'll get to it when I get to it. But, like, if you want to read Lord of the Rings, if you want to read Winnie the Pooh, if you want to read C.S. Lewis, you're either going to do it or you're not. I don't know. Like, the people who haven't done it, it's not going to interest.
Yeah. I understand.
So...
Ren and Corrales are just as bad. No. They're like, my chat is just sort of like basically saying that Ren and Corrales are just as bad as the Empire's people for the swearing. For the mature audience thing. And I'm like, they can at least keep their potty mouths in check. Better than I can in some cases.
I found it's actually harder. Like, the only times I've really sworn on stream without meaning to have been when I have people hanging out in the studio, because it shifts the context to me hanging out with my friends, rather than me talking into a microphone, you know?
I get that. Centuritron has resubscribed for 17 months saying, resub time, hoping to be able to join the Patreon soon. Love the streams and enjoy my time here so much. Oh, thank you very much. For me, I swear... I mean, I've managed to kind of retrain myself from swearing. For me, it was sort of like, as you say, context. If context was, I'm in school, I don't swear. I'm at home, I do.
Yeah.
So...
Well, and I mean, I used to work in the ad industry, And that's a very, like, that's a very sweary, also drinky industry. Like, people would run down the hall, grab the frame of my door, and be like, "Joe, we're doing shots. You want to join us?" And I'm like, I'm running maintenance on a server right now. It's not a good time for me to be drinking, but thank you for the invitation. Like,
hey, Jem.
Hey, Jem. Yeah, no, but it's one of those things, like, you know, if your job is to write or design posters or magazine ads or anything like that, you can be a little bit more casual about drinking at work, because everything you do gets looked at by somebody else before it goes out the door. When I'm running maintenance on servers, when I'm changing things or doing stuff like that, like, I am the check and balance. Like, there's nobody else checking my work before going out the door, you know? So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is the concern for swearing for the kids or for career or professionalism? Here's the problem. If you swear in front of the children and the children don't immediately, like, if they don't like you, you are getting fired.
Oh, you're talking about at school.
Oh, I'm talking about in school.
Okay.
If your kids don't like you, you're getting fired. Just straight up. Also, yes, we're talking about swearing, sort of. If the kids like you and you go and you start to swear, they will take the mickey, but they will have your back. And if somebody asks them, they will say no, because I have accidentally sworn in front of children before. I had injured myself. I had broken my toe. So it was kind of warranted. But, like, also equally professionalism. And, you know, I don't think it's my place to teach children how to swear. You know? As like, now that Minecraft is, like, so variable in age, it's a difficult one for videos and stuff.
Well, the big thing for me is I want my videos to be... I don't make my videos for kids.
No, I don't.
But I want adults to be able to watch them without worrying about their kid coming in. Or, like, overhearing it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But,
so
like,
trying to coax the cat, you know, into view.
The thing is, or at least my Minecraft videos, if I did a video series on Doom, like, those, it wouldn't matter if I swore or not, those videos wouldn't be appropriate for kids to watch, because
that's correct,
incredibly violent. So I don't have any problem with making stuff that isn't for children, because nothing I make is for children. But
yes, that's true.
I don't know. It's just, in the context of my Minecraft videos, it doesn't make a lot of... I don't see anything being added by including swearing. NJ points out that I swear a lot more on Twitter. Oh, well, the thing is, though, like, and that's usually, if I'm swearing on Twitter, it's for emphasis about a societal failure or something I would like to see improved.
Yeah.
And I've found that is impactful. I didn't do that to be more impactful. I did that to express the strength of my emotion. But it seems like, on the whole, doing so when appropriate is well received. And so I'm not going to change that. I'm not going to like, because here's the other thing is, you're not supposed, like, Twitter isn't for children. So I'm not worried about, like, oh no, what if a kid sees Joe swearing on Twitter? It's like, well, what am I swearing about? I'm swearing about somebody in government doing something stupid that hurts a lot of people. Like, this is legitimately upsetting. That I am upset, and I'm expressing that, you know?
No, I get you. Absolutely. Yes, kitty feets.
Somebody asked me about Mantua Maker asked us about reading Ovid. Once again, I don't think Ovid's original work was in English, so then I either need to use an out of copyright translation that's going to be very dated. I need to read in a foreign language, which I'm not sure. This is something I've considered with Don Quixote. I've considered for Don Quixote doing a Tuesday morning stream where it's like, okay, I am just gonna read Don Quixote in the original Spanish while I do grindy stuff in Minecraft. Because enough people speak Spanish that seems like it's not unreasonable. But if I try to read Ovid, I'm not sure like what the Greek-speaking population is these days. Or was it Latin? Ovid might have been Latin.
I don't know.
I think Ovid was Latin. But that's the problem with Utopia as well, as the original Utopia was written in Latin.
Jem says, I like this page. It's pretty and zodiac-y. I do have a zodiac spread for one of my... Hang on, let's see if I can find it. Like, I'm not sure which other book it's in, but, like... I think it was in the one that is currently... Sorry, guys, you're about to just get shifted around a little bit. Yank. Oh, that didn't like that. But I think in here they've got a zodiac one. Yeah, I've got like moons and stars and stuff in here. Like, so I did a whole zodiac spread, which I kind of like. Thinking about it, that's very pretty and very gold. I need to start using the sparkle pens more. So, it's very pretty. It was for my birthday month, so I figured I'm using the same tape down here. I figured it was the appropriate time. You're saying that one's pretty. You're not saying that this one's pretty. I think this one's very pretty. I mean, last month was, well, I suppose this month actually, because it's January's. It's butterflies, because butterflies are pretty. And so, pretty butterflies. Got to get over here and get some all sorts of butterflies for this month, but this is this week. And then more butterflies. And
I love that cutout flap with the butterfly. That's so cool.
Yeah, the cutout butterfly flap is very cool.
Yeah, I'm watching this on the stream, so it's a little delayed, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. Yeah, I am so tired, Joe. My brain is shutting down.
Okay. I mean, do you want to... Let's see, it's 9:57 now, my time. So do you want to wrap up in a half hour, or do you want to just wrap up on this hour?
I want to go take a nap, Joe.
That's fair. That's fair. If you're at a natural stopping point, I've actually done almost this entire picture.
Cool.
Like, so it's like it's not like a terrible time for me to stop, and I've got some stuff with my modded server I need to fix anyway.
Yeah.
My
Sorry.
The guy who's doing the mods.
Sorry,
for
this
that.
one was short, guys. I tried so hard.
You know what, Cleo? I feel like we had a really good conversation today. This was really a great break for me. Because, like I said, I've been so creatively focused on like really intense stuff. Just sitting here and coloring for an hour and a half has been fantastic. So thank you, Cleo.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Kitty, you coming? Come on. It's
all right
here. Head, come
you trying to get the cat in the frame?
Yep.
I see a little tiny paw.
Sort of.
I see the shadow of the cat.
You got like a side face. You got a touch of side face.
And just little paws. So cute.
And little tiny paws.
Alrighty.
For some reason, she doesn't want to tread on there.
Well, Cleo, I think we should probably, if we're gonna call it here, we should probably break into our own streams. But thank you so much. This was a great way to start my Wednesday.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the fact that you're just saying, no, it's fine. We can go.
Oh no, you need your rest. I get it. Like, I've been getting more sleep lately, and it makes a huge difference. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Lay your head down and dream, Cleo.
Kitty, 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 kitty.
Oh, the cat's back. Well, we can't leave right now. Cat's
Yes,
back.
we can.
Oh, the kitty.
It's the book. She doesn't like standing on the book. I think is what it is.
Gotcha.
So we've learned. Okay.
Yeah. Now we know.
All right. I'll see you later, Joe.
Alrighty, bye,
Thank
Cleo.
you very much.
Stream, we're still going for a second here. Cleo and I will break off from the what do you call it? From the Discord group chat or whatever. But yeah, this was a really fun hangout. Thank you to everybody who stopped by. I had a great time. Let me go ahead and see who is streaming now. Bum 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 bum. Okay, it looks like our friend Pearlescent Moon is doing some Legos, doing a Lego Technic Airbus build. That's cool. Why don't we go ahead and raid Pearlescent Moon? I always try to remind her, hey, if you want to stop by, you can. So hopefully we'll get her to hang out one day, but I know she likes doing her own thing. That's good too. Honestly, like, sometimes it's really relaxing. Just have a chance to just chill and do your own thing. So when you get over there, our raid message is howdy, y'all. Joe Hills raid here. And until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring. Do 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 do. Stop.